It's not the hottest or most original of takes to say that there's a difficulty problem in Monster Hunter Rise. I felt like I had enough material though to flesh out more specifically what I find so numb about the player experiences in Rampages in Monster Hunter Rise. I'll be using examples from World to illustrate how mechanics combined with difficulty make for an engaging fight, and how a lack of difficulty makes those mechanics feel pointless, and how that makes the experience not engaging. So, with that, let's begin. First off, I feel as though the issue with Rampages aren't necessarily the lack of mechanics or the lack of the number of mechanics. They have multiple different installations: cannons, ballistas, machine guns, specials, Elder Fugen, Yomogi, etc. Different times to use them, different caveats to them, different ways, of course, as well as a Dragonator, a Wyvern Shot, as well as you can try and use the geometry of the tower defense overlay if you wish to place your installations in the best possible way. There's a lot of potential with these mechanics. My issue is the lack of commitment to them, which I'll roughly define as the problem with difficulty. In short, in this chapter, I'll use examples to show why difficulty is the key to making mechanics useful and truly shine in a fight, as well as what happens when mechanics aren't committed to by making them too easy. In short, the problem isn't the mechanics, it's that difficulty is what pushes you to use mechanics, and if you don't have the difficulty as the bedrock of the player experience, the player won't feel one way or another way about using them. They will just do whatever they feel like in the moment. And I intend to show exactly how Rampages are lacking many facets of what was in prior games that made for epic fights. So I'll be using Behemoth and Leshen for my examples, as they were the best parts by far for me when it came to Monster Hunter World, and the best examples of group fights that were fun, thrilling, and punishing while being rewarding. Behemoth has mechanics that punish you for not knowing about them or learning to deal with them. Or not learning how to deal with them, I should say. First off, we will go over probably his most common move, the Charybdis. Behemoth will cast this move on a random player. After about 5 seconds of targeting that player, it casts a tornado on the spot the player is on. You are allowed multiple ways of dealing with this. For starters, the easiest way is to grab Enmity, which I'll go over a bit more later, but this happens when you hit his head enough times. He'll aggro onto the player, which has its own drawback, of course, because most players can't handle Behemoth only attacking him. But he won't cast Charybdis for a while he has Enmity on a single player. You can also deal with Charybdis by flash podding him. A flash pod will cancel a Charybdis, and you'll be good until he casts it again. Or if you can't do either of those two options, you can try your best to run to the sides of the map and put the tornadoes in locations in the arena that you're currently in that will make it easier for your team to deal with. They can fight Behemoth in the middle, while the tornadoes aren't a big deal on the outskirts of the fight. You also have comments to deal with. Comments will add another small yet very, very relevant layer to this fight. It's another thing to think about. If the comment is on you, it's your job to place it somewhere, or if he's casting a comment on you, it's your job to place it somewhere reasonable for your team to get to and get behind, but also so not up against the wall, but also out of the way of Behemoth's move. If the comment is not on you, you must keep track of them while attempting to lure Behemoth away from the comments. There is leeway here, of course, but if your team messes up and all the comments get destroyed, it's game over unless your entire team is god tier and can emote over the meteor. Charybdis and comments actually inadvertently become linked layers in the fight, because if you place a comment well and don't fight around it so you keep it safe, but someone accidentally places a tornado right behind the comment or around the comment, it can make it worthless or a lot harder to get to. So in that fight, they've added layered concerns as well as fighting the beat. You can also cut off his tail or break his horns in the first or second stage. If you do that, he will go towards Nergigante's lair. If you don't break his head or cut off his tail, he will head towards Teoster's lair. Both these areas have different drawbacks, as this knowledge gives you a choice to make. Depending on the area you fight him in, you have different things to worry about. If you fight him in Teoster's lair, You need to worry about the lava knocking you off the ground, and you have to bring cool drinks. Nergigante's lair is generally easier, but you still have to watch out for spikes. They don't deal as much damage or as much knockback as the lava, but interrupting your flow and causing a lot of knockback is a huge issue against fighting Behemoth. Now, with all of these concerns in a Behemoth fight, Capcom did give you a multitude of ways of fighting him and dealing with him. But he's still always a tough fight. If you can get a mount on him and just hold that mount, you can get a lot of damage in. You can put him to sleep, you can stun him, you can paralyze him, knock him down by going for his feet. Can cut off his tail, which decreases the area of effect for some of his moves, lowers the hitbox on some of his moves. You can also deal a lot of damage to him in the first phase by breaking the boulders over his head. Now, if you lack the ability to fight him head-on, all of this knowledge will help you take him down. Capcom is rewarding you for doing your research on this monster and trying to implement that in the fight. And it could be rewarding. Even if you lack some skill and you're not doing very well fighting against him, if you're the guy that breaks the rocks over his head, or if you're the flash pod guy, or if you're the healer, you still feel like you're contributing and you're helping take down this fight. So basically, the point I'm trying to make with this refresher course on Behemoth is that we had a fight that had a lot of layers and mechanics and things to learn. Many things to learn. Very much as well as a very hard and fast and difficult fight. That would be challenging on its own without all this other stuff that they're throwing at you to be concerned about, like tornadoes. The difficulty of the fight is what forced you to learn this stuff if you wanted to be good and contribute in a group. The stakes were always clear. You'd get the best gear in the game. They didn't change any of the rules. Your party still only gets 3 feints. You have to get good. So as you tried to fight Behemoth, an arc over time would form, where at the start you probably weren't very good, and over time you would get better and maybe even eventually beat it, and that would be rewarding because you actually learned something. And although many times I failed, or we failed as a group, or I might get frustrated, the thrill of the fight came from knowing that this fight had those stakes, those rewards, those mechanics, that difficulty that made it all worthwhile. When and or if you finally won, I think we can all remember the first time we beat Behemoth if we did. It was the feeling you want when you buy a game. The feeling that you actually accomplished something. So with that, there's absolutely none of this with Apex Rampages in Monster Hunter Rise. Whether we fight Apex Zinogre or Apex Rathalos, it ultimately makes no difference. Sure, they have different moves, weaknesses, and they even proceed with the Rampage a little bit differently from each other. But I've won every Rampage, so I've either had the most insane run of luck getting nothing but god tier teammates all the time, or it's simply too easy. And learning any of the mechanics in the fight don't matter. I haven't even gone over a lot of the mechanics of a Rampage yet specifically, but they don't matter because you can do whatever you want. You can watch football, you can eat chips, you can do whatever you want while you do a Rampage and still win. It's literally casual. The only pro to this is that it allows you the freedom to play how you want, which can kind of be nice, because when you do a plethora of Rampages, sometimes you like to change it up by manning the guns the whole time or charging the wyvern shot the whole time shoveling coal. It's actually kind of neat to be able to decide what I want to do in a Rampage to contribute, but without making me commit heavily with difficulty. I can miss wyvern shots, I can wear low tier gear. It honestly feels like nothing I do really matters, whereas a group fight, Ancient Leshen, it feels like everything you do matters. Next thing I wanted to go over were Novas. There aren't great Novas in the Apex Rampages in Monster Hunter Rise. By Iceborne, it's possible Novas got a little tiresome. Safi Jiva had one, Behemoth, Extremoth, Leshen, even Iceborne Taroth had a Nova. While they had become maybe a tad repetitive, they do serve a purpose if done correctly. The Novas in the Leshen and Behemoth fight come to mind. In Behemoth, they were a reward for skillful placement and focus on the mechanics I pointed out earlier. Your reward is you get to survive till the next phase or win the fight. In the Ancient Leshen fight, they were more of a reward for diligence. The Novas in the Leshen fight would start to happen, I think, in around the 3rd phase. and you would have to flash pot it or hide behind something in about 3 to 5 seconds. They happen very quickly after the animation started. They made you keep it in mind at all times when you're fighting it because they seem so random. At all times in the back of your mind, you're thinking, how close am I to a tree? Would I be prepared to shoot a flash pod and save my team if I had to within the next few seconds? Oh crap, I'm stunned. I hope he doesn't do a Nova right now. So as well as being an intense fight, the lesson was, they gave you these really tense, oh shit moments. Hurry up and sheath and shoot a flash pod. Oh crap, where's the comment? I need to run. Oh snap. Novas and Iceborne weren't as great. Safi Jiva just means go run behind a rock. That was placed before the fight. Elytraeon's was just a damage check with a little bit of spectacle. Hey, did you bring life powder? And Kulve Taroth's, I couldn't tell what I was looking at half the time. So they weren't as well executed. Though they do have their merits, like the spectacle with the music cue with Safi Jiva, or to break from the action like with Fatalises where you can sharpen, heal, etc. But the better ones like Leshen and Behemoth reward you for focus and diligence, your ability to handle multiple things and tasks while fighting a long, hard-fought battle. These conflicts were layered and challenging, leading to many fun hours of attempting to defeat them. This is another thing that Rampages lack entirely. There are no Novas. The best they attempt to do, which is kind of pathetic, is an Apex will charge a blast or a move that'll, to break down the gate. And if you fail to knock it down, it'll deal massive damage to the gate. Whoa! The gate never falls. I've never failed an Apex. Who cares? The Apex Rampage Novas don't compare to World or Iceborne's very well at all. They don't have the same spectacle or scale. They don't reward any trait of gameplay. Again, to be fair, you're talking about an Apex and Ogre, which is not the same scale as a Safi Jiva. But that goes for all the content we have in this game right now. The Apexes don't measure up to the same Novas at all that we had in the last game. The mechanic they attempt to enforce here is that the Apexes will start charging a Nova, and they'll give you a certain amount of time, I'm not sure how much, in order for you to knock it out of that Nova. You can knock it out by dealing damage, hitting its head, I'm sure just the ways that you would generally knock out a monster would work. But if he does land the Nova, it's not a big deal. Again, very much unlike all these other Novas. If Fatalis kills you, that is a big deal. If Elytraeon kills you, that's a big deal. In virtually Velkhana's Nova, if that kills you, it's a big deal. You really have to be concerned about those Novas. Apex and Ogre, he can Nova the gate 3 or 4 times. Well, maybe 3 times. But yeah, it's not... There's no tension because there's no stakes. There's no, oh, I'm going to lose. I better stop him or I better run away. Nope, it doesn't exist. Yep, at the end of this, they don't reward clever gameplay or preparation. Because like I explained earlier, they don't commit to their mechanics. They throw them in this game. It has the potential to force players to learn how to deal with the Rampage. Oh crap, this Nova is actually going to break the gate. We better knock this thing down. Like, we better hit it with a KO shot with a ballista or something. But because of the lack of difficulty, there's no reason to. The Nova repeatedly hits the gate a few times and you're still not worried because in the end you'll always win. Ultimately, if worse comes to worse and he actually breaks the gate down, congratulations, you've actually experienced what it's like to lose a Rampage. Your 1 out of 100th game has finally happened and the next 99 Rampages will go on without a problem. This next chapter might be a little weird, but I'll explain it further. The next thing I'm talking about is how the tone is attempting to make up for the lack of real epicness. The sad thing is, with the music, the characters yelling and really getting into it, hey, gotta stop the Apex. It's supposed to feel epic. It's supposed to be epic, but I feel more and more that the designers were doing all of that to try and compensate for a lack of real engagement by the player, with overly ecstatic music and tone and all kinds of things. The music and the atmosphere for an Apex Rampage is really great. Elder Fugen is yelling, the music is pumping, changes when the Apex introduces himself and he shows up. Each Apex has a different introduction, which is kind of neat. Zinogre will electrocute multiple installations and destroy everything. If you stay on them, you'll get shocked. Apex Rathalos drops slow fire bombs all over the area, forces you to reposition. I know we all crapped ourselves the first time we saw this kind of stuff. When our first Apex showed up, I think it was Uros, and they just wrecked that first gate. Before we had ever seen that, we were like, "Oh crap, dude! He's like, we need to get our shit together. Like, this is actually kind of epic." This is also the first time most of us had ever even known there was a second area, because they never, no monster had ever gotten us there. So they get to the second area, an area most of us had never seen before, in Apex Rampage, because we never had our first gate fall. And then Apex wrecks the entire area too before assaulting the front gate. Then after a minute or two, more monsters come, and we're like, oh crap, like this is about to turn up. And then you'll unlock Utsushi, maybe you'll unlock Yamogi, and this is meant to build it up and make you feel like, oh man, like the entire village is gonna show up and try and help me out here. But ultimately, I felt like all this was done to give you the mirage of accomplishment without it being actually true. Maybe if we hype up these rampages, we'll make the player feel like they did something really hard. But when you have us farm rampages for defender tickets and we actually commit to playing a few hundred hours of this game, we realize very quickly defeating an Apex Zenogre means almost nothing. No amount of presentation can trick us into thinking otherwise. At the end of the day, even when we had me and my team under-geared and the game just came out, I never failed a rampage. The bar must be really low. The only reason to do good the whole rampage is for the rewards. If you hit more rampage goals, you'll get a higher rank for increased rewards. Not getting 3 feints, picking up materials, hitting the monsters with ailments, etc. But as for the fight itself, there's actually no reason to do it that well. To be clear, for starters, the reason to do well in a Leshen or Fatalis fight is that so you have less feints throughout the rest of the fight, and you actually have a better chance of beating it. It's self-evident why you should learn to do the fight well, because you'll lose otherwise. Victory in rampages is a damn near certainty, meaning losing isn't really a concern. The potential of losing is why you must learn the mechanics of a fight and do well. Now that losing isn't a factor, your incentive to do well is to get rewards and not actually perform the best by any real game sense, quote unquote. The objectives that give you extra rewards don't actually mean you play well. Picking up materials, switching installations, repelling monsters with ballistae. You can get rampage level increases by doing this stuff, but by no means does that mean you're actually doing anything significant in the fight. To be fair, they have other ones that are more applicable. So for example, I'm sorry I don't have footage of this, but the best rampage I felt I ever had was probably about a week ago. The entire rampage went all the way to Apex without even breaking the first gate. It was actually really awesome. Everyone used the mechanics properly. They used crag shots to KO the monsters, machine cannons, firing the wire bug thingies to pull the monsters away from the gate, thunder cannons to assist KOs. We even repelled Magdamalo. Like I said, like this group was actually pretty incredible. It was pretty dope. I still think we just got an A ranking, or an S, which is high, but S plus is the highest. And to be fair, we did get a third feint right at the very end. But my gaming sense, like myself, I felt we had an S plus tier group. Everyone did phenomenal. We had a third feint with 10 seconds at the end, and then we didn't repel enough monsters using bamboo bombs or something, which has got to be one of the stupidest objectives ever. Rampage doesn't look at you or give you special rewards for being actually awesome. They just want you to hit a random checklist that doesn't actually really pertain to performance. I've had plenty of S plus groups where we basically let the monsters break all the gates right at the very start. Nothing exceptional going on there. Just everyone doing the bare minimum and getting lucky with easy objectives, like make sure to repel 3 monsters with a machine cannon or something. So superficial objective checking is a flaw, but I feel like homogenizing the experiences is also a terrible oversight. With this group that I ran Apex and Ogre with, again we kept our first gate up the entire time. I was actually really looking forward to Apex and Ogre having to run through it all. And he'd have to break down all our gates first. We knew it happened fast, but I was looking forward to having earned a few shots at it with a ballistae, or a few extra shots at it with a machine cannon. It really didn't matter. Like, it doesn't do that much damage, especially when you hit the counter gong at the end. But yeah, it would have felt great just to, like, hey, I earned some extra shots here. I'm really excited to do this. But instead, our entire first area blew up before he even showed up. We didn't even get a chance to hit him with anything before then. So my point here is that the experience is homogenized once the Apex shows up. There is no, oh well, maybe we can actually keep him in the first area if we play really well. Nope. Once the Apex shows up, you have failed to keep the first zone safe, and things are getting so dire you need to go to the backup plan. Woo! The slate gets wiped clean. All roads lead to the same instance happening. It's all the same in the second area. If by some miracle you've actually ever gotten to the second area before the Apex shows up, he'll wipe away all your stuff there too, and start attacking the last gate. So there is no reward for doing exceptional before the Apex shows up, because it all gets wiped away once he does, and the first gate is instantly destroyed. In Apex is in Ogre's case, he just teleports right there. Whether or not it was heavily damaged or you were able to keep your entire base at full health, it doesn't matter. I've had groups that did far worse objectively as far as what it felt like success should be. They didn't use the installations right. They didn't go for KOs on the head. They would dink off the whole time or use weapons even when the gong wasn't fired. Wouldn't go for wyvern rides. Basically do the bare minimum, if that. But somehow not only did we win, but we would get S+. They didn't die. They picked up materials and got lucky with easy objective. Those sessions didn't feel great because the game doesn't actually ask you to excel, just to pass while accomplishing random objectives. All the meanwhile, true good play isn't really rewarded at all. What should be true exceptional play, actually following the mechanics, isn't even rewarded. So even if you go through the trouble of learning how to do a rampage properly and actually executing flawlessly, you're not actually rewarded for that. Now I'll go over some drawbacks of Capcom releasing what you might call strict demanding group play. You could spend hours losing with randoms, and although you're an amazing player, everyone else just can't make it. I know this because I could solo Behemoth in Monster Hunter World. I would still spend hours and hours trying to help randoms, and I think after maybe a few dozen hours of trying to help randoms, I may have actually done it with 1 or 2 groups, and this is just normal Behemoth. I once remember a 6-hour session of helping random people try and get through Behemoth, and I'm literally at the skill level where if you just waited at base and gave me 33 minutes, I could do it, and we still couldn't win as a group. I would dodge everything, never die, be top DPS, take enmity, and even after a while, I took on more. I'd bring wide range, heal with potions, bring life powder, and still so many times I just couldn't carry randoms. This can be a negative, but also a pro as far as commitment to mechanics go. If I took it seriously, I could be ungodly frustrated that I can't carry people through this. It can be negative. That skillful players could be held back by the fact that the player base isn't or can't handle a hard fight. We also saw this with Alatreon, if you recall. It seems riskier to release hard content. You're making something that not everyone can do and not everyone will get through. People can get butthurt and petition and swear off the game. You as a developer actually will end up excluding people from content in a way. When Extremoth was made, it was made with the idea in mind that probably only 1% of players at most will be able to beat this thing at the time, and will get that sweet layered armor. And that can bum a lot of people out because a lot of people want it, but that's kind of the point, to make something to achieve that will aspire people to achieve that thing. There are cons and risks to difficulty, but ultimately we're seeing the negatives now of what happens when you don't want to take that risk. No passion or long-term play from the passionate player base, complaints endlessly about lack of challenge or endgame, and absolutely no achievements to be had, other than speed running. No commitment to mechanics means everyone gets a participation trophy. Congratulations, nobody cares. Lack of engagement or excitement about what could laughably be called event quests. I can't tell you how many memes I've seen from the community about how they're not going to pop in Monster Hunter Rise again because they have a new event quest that gives you stickers. Honestly, I enjoy the memes so much that I don't mind the flaws in the game, and sometimes, but it's not, I believe, what Capcom were going for. So with that in mind, Capcom's going to have to figure it out for themselves. Do they want to cater to the lowest common denominator, make content that everyone can get through and have nothing that inspires certain people to get better and play better? Or are they going to cater to a passionate fan base that wants challenges and loves their game, truly? Up to them. And with that, I want to thank you all for watching. Yeah, I hope I was clear. I hope it made sense. I hope it was enjoyable. Yeah, I just wanted to make this video and kind of explain what I saw was the issues with Rampages. I think we all wanted this to succeed, and it's not the worst mode ever. But yeah, the lack of willingness on Capcom's part to really make these mechanics flourish and make you learn them in order for you to succeed, instead of what they did, which is just everyone gets to succeed as long as they're doing whatever. Yeah, that's gonna be an issue, because you end up alienating a passionate fan base that wants challenge and difficulty, and they actually want to achieve things. So, all right, well, with that, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. If you made it to this point, please give me some constructive criticism. I'd love to get better and do more of this kind of stuff. So, all right, thank you very much.